Welcome back. So let's just try and actually add this filtered method right here. Now, to avoid breaking any code where people are using get all orders, I'm just going to keep that one in here, the get all orders, and make a new one inside my order service. So I'm just going to return right here. I'm returning OK, just like we're doing down here. Let me just comment that guy out. I'm returning OK, but I'm going to ask the order service for a new method that we're going to build called get filtered orders like this. And that guy is actually going to just send in the filter like this, filter. So I'm pretty much just, I want to keep the old method, right? I want to keep this one if people are still using that in my code, and then I want to make a new one for filtering orders inside the service right here. And then in the end, I'll try and ask it to create this one for me. So I'll say implement create method inside iOrderService, and there we go, we have the method right here. Now instead of actually returning an object, I wanted to return a list of orders right here. And there we go. Now we have the new method in the iOrderService, and that pretty much means that our current service should fail, and it does, because it's not upholding the interface anymore, right? It doesn't know it's an iOrderService because it needs that method. So let's just implement the missing members. Poof. There we go. Now we have the method available right here. And we can actually do this by either creating in the order repo, we can create a new read all filtered, or we can just keep the one we have, and I'm going to do that. Just keep the one we have, say return order repo dot read all and to list, just like you had before. There we go. But I'm going to actually send in the filter in the read all right here. There we go. Now that will of course give a complaint because we cannot send in the filter to the read all the way we've set it up right now. And again, I'm going to jump into the read all in the order repository right here, and I'm going to allow that filter by adding it like this. So now we can pass in a filter, right? But the problem is if we jump back to our order service, now this guy fails because he doesn't know there's a filter, right? So to fix that, the final thing I'll do is I'll say the filter can default be null. So that's how you set up a default null value, pretty much meaning if you're not passing in a filter to this guy, I'll just set it to null. Pretty powerful stuff. So now that pretty much means the auto service is running again. I didn't make any change to this guy, so anybody can still use that if they want to. I just said that you can also now pass in a filter if you want to, right? So I've kind of protected the old code and then created a new path down my system. Now, of course, the order repository will now give me a complaint because I didn't add the filter to the read all right here. So I'll add that inside my implementation of the order service. And now what I'll do is pretty much just say if the filter is in fact null, right? So if this guy is null, that means that I'm using the old request where I don't send in a filter, and then I can just return the orders like I did before. So now the old code is running perfectly like it did before. We just open up for a new option right here. So the final thing I want to do is kind of use my filter to start my pagination right here. So what I'll do is I say context, and then I can say I want to filter the orders right here. Let's just return this, by the way. That's the table I want to filter. Returns context.orders. And what do I want to actually do? Well, I want to start from a certain point. So I want to use the filter to figure out where should I begin my query from. Should I start at the 0th position in the database, the first row, or should I start from the 10th row, or where do I want to start getting my data from, right? So what I'll do here is I'll say skip. How many do I want to skip before I take the first row? And I want to skip, in my case, the filter current page times the filters per page items right here, items per page. That's how many I want to skip, except that I always send in page 1. That's the minimum amount of, that's the first page I look at. So I have to say the filter of page X times, minus 1, because I want to start from, if I pick page 1, I want to start from page 0. Because then I end up getting 0 right here, and that means that I'm going to look at the first row inside my database. Try and look at it. I know it's kind of complex, even though it looks simple. Then I want to take a certain amount, so I'll do a take right here. How many do I actually want? And I want to take filter items per page. That's how many I want to get from the actual database in this request right here. And that's all I had to do, right? So now I can start using this new query up here. If I go back to my orders control, you'll notice now I start using this guy instead, using that filter, and I should get back the right amount. Let's just try and see this running, and then we'll end this lesson. So jumping into Postman right here, I'll say current page 1, items 10 per page, and let's see if we get all back. We get all 3 orders back. Let's instead say we want to go to page 1 and we just want to get 1 item back. Let's try and do that. There we go, we got the first item. Let's try and go to page 2 then with a single item. And we got the second item, and of course page 3, we'll get the third item, right? Let's try and say 2 per page and just get page 1 again, and we'll get 2 for the first page. And let's go to the second page and see how many we get. We get the final one. Perfect, it works. We still have some twerks here, so we need to fix those in the next lesson. What if I put in 0? Let's try and see what happens. I get back the first one, that looks fine. What if I put in 0 here, what would happen? I get nothing back, so there are still some twerks. We need to figure those out in the service, but right now the pages are actually running and you have pagination. That's it for this lesson. See you next time, have fun.